confabulation.
音の科学者グアムへ。
So today I'm here with Dr. Cappriccieo Scates, a music executive, United Nations ambassador, and a professor here at SAE Institute in Atlanta, Georgia. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for coming to this production. Thank you for being a part of this. Really appreciate it. So you want to say a little bit about yourself? I mean, I know that you have worked with people like Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Alicia Keys, the Fugees. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I mean, even Heavy D, Rakim, who was completely my crush back in the day, okay? I was gonna marry Rakim back in the day, okay? Yeah, for you young guys, you don't know about him, but trust me.
Definitely one of the greatest of all time, for sure.
Absolutely. So, what was it like to work with him?
Well, I did independent promotions for Universal, so I didn't spend a whole lot of time with him, but I worked in terms of promoting and marketing his project as far as radio, retail, clubs, street promotion, and that sort of thing. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. And of course, so now we can't of course, Beyonce, Michael Jackson. What are your most memorable moments about working with Michael Jackson?
I think probably the coolest thing that ever happened was I was working with Teddy Riley, and that's how I got the opportunity to work with Michael. But we were working in the B room, and Michael Jackson called on the phone while we were in the B room, and someone comes up and they say, "Hey, MJ's on the phone." And
Wow,
we're like, Michael
MJ?
Jackson? Like, yeah. So I said to Teddy Riley, I said, "You have to put him on speakerphone." He said, "Okay, but you can't talk." So literally I was there with Teddy Riley. I was laying next to the phone, and I wanted to talk so bad, but I couldn't say anything. So eventually I got a chance to meet Mike and talk, but that first, it's probably the most memorable moment of hearing Teddy Riley and Michael Jackson
Wow.
actually
What
talking
do
on
you
the phone.
remember what he said?
He was asking for music. He was telling Teddy that he was working on the new album. This was for the Dangerous album. He was saying, "I'm going to be working on a new album, and I'm looking for music." And he was like, make sure you bring the heat and et cetera. But I was just like, wow, this is Michael Jackson. So it was a pretty incredible experience.
That had to be incredible.
Absolutely.
Do you find that happens a lot of the time, that artists are really like, relying on producers to really get that right production for them,
absolutely.
and no matter who the artist is, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, everything is predicated around the song. So it's all about having a great song. So the producer has a very high value in that process.
Awesome. Okay. So what, who would you say is your most talented producer that you've worked with?
Teddy Riley, hands down. I mean, you talk about someone who's influenced an entire generation. And I don't care if you're talking to an 18-year-old to a 45-year-old. At one point or another, if they're a producer, they were influenced by Teddy Riley. So Teddy's definitely the most influential person that I've worked with, for sure.
Wow, I wasn't expecting you to hear that. Well, I wasn't expecting to hear that.
Yeah.
So what about Beyonce? What is your affiliation with
So I managed a producer named John Trax, and he did Beyonce Deja Vu, the Beyonce Deja Vu project with Rodney Jerkins. So that's my affiliation with working with Beyonce as a part of managing John Trax. And we were
Okay.
nominated for a Grammy for that particular record as well. A lot
Wow.
of awards, a lot of airplay. So in fact, it was her first single from the B-Day album.
Wow,
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
So, did you get a good paycheck?
Yeah, and they still come. That's the good thing about it. So, once you get
Those
that song out there,
residuals.
absolutely. So, from the publishing side, it makes the most sense.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into a little bit about your role as a United Nations ambassador.
Uh huh.
Um, Tonight, as we speak, our president may be impeached.
Right.
So, what is that like, and how did you go from like the music industry, working with Teddy Riley, to becoming a UN ambassador?
Yeah. So I was at an awards show, and this lady, I was speaking with a lady backstage, and she said, you'd be a great ambassador. And I'm thinking like, yeah, right, lady. And she says, well, I'm gonna make an introduction. And I'm like,
Are you
okay. So a
serious?
couple
Wow.
of weeks go by, and I get an email saying, hey, you've been recommended, and they asked for a bunch of information. And it took, that was like April 2016, and by that August, I got another message saying that they had did my background check and all the stuff that they required, and that they had selected me. And they select 17 people each year, so I was one of 17 people selected. So
Wow.
for 2017 to 2019.
Wow, that's amazing. That
Yeah.
must be a trip, right?
No,
Did you
it's-
ever think that you would get into
No,
politics at all?
You definitely. I mean, I'm a music guy, so you don't think of it that way, but it makes sense in terms of the natural progression and growth. The UN has 17 pillars that they are concentrating on things like clean air above sea, below sea, no poverty, eradicating hunger, that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so, I'm a goodwill ambassador to sort of usher in that initiative and to help with identifying those things that are important to the UN. And so the UN is often said to be not heaven on earth, but it keeps hell from breaking out on earth.
You got a hard job if that's the case, because it seems like all hell is breaking out.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
do you think the president will be impeached tonight?
I think he'll be impeached. However, I don't think he'll be removed from office. Once it gets to the Senate, they will not remove him from office, but he certainly will get impeached by the House for sure.
Okay. Fair, yeah. I think we're all looking toward that, but we never know what's going to happen these days. It's just it blows everyone's minds.
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell me, would you ever think about running?
That is something that's been pressing, a
And
burning desire.
what would- what-
as of late.
really?
Yes, absolutely. So I've been considering starting out maybe at city council level, and then moving up to maybe a congressman or senator or something to that effect. So it's definitely something that I'm considering very heavily. But I have to pray about it and look for God's guidance on if that's what He wants me to do.
Awesome. What would you say that would be the most pressing issue, just based on your experience as an African American male? What would be the most pressing issue that you would want to start really making changes
I
to?
think it depends on what municipality I'm in and what area of government I end up working in. So I think, it could be if I were elected to the school board, it could be obviously issues related to education and those types of matters. It could be public safety or something to that effect. So I have to get there. I'm not quite at that stage yet. I'm just determining what I want to do. So,
Got it.
yeah.
So right now you are a professor here at SAE Institute,
Yes.
and you hold a doctorate degree in philosophy.
Correct. Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about that? Like does philosophy tie into your role as a professor? And I think you teach entrepreneurship and the music business, and how do those two tie in?
Well, I think when you just look at the natural order of things in terms of the order of God, family, and work, I think there's a tie-in. Oftentimes, we're not looking at that as musicians and artists. We're thinking about winning Grammys, American Music Awards, and Dove Awards, and so I think that process of actually understanding that there is an order, that there is God, whatever you subscribe to, whatever you believe in, there is family, of course, and then there's work. And so, at one point in time, I used to put it in this big pot, and I stir it up, and I say, don't be looking over here in this spot. Don't be telling me about there being an order. But in actuality, there is. And I think philosophy has a lot to do with that in terms of just some of the greatest minds to ever live and how they approach life.
Okay. And so, what was it like growing up for you, and where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up, I like to say, between Los Angeles and Chicago. In the summers, I would go live with my grandmother in Chicago, and in the school year, I would live with my mom in Los Angeles. But my 8th grade year and my 10th grade year, I lived with my grandmother in Chicago. So I really claim both, Chicago and Los Angeles. So.
Okay, that must have been tough though, like going between two households.
It probably was fun. I never saw it as tough. I mean, I was a kid, so for me as a
Okay.
kid, it was just fun.
It was like a new
Yeah,
experience.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it kind of like built up your
Yeah.
stamina in a
Sure.
way.
And then I came, when I went to visit my grandmother, I was the cool kid from California. And so
Okay.
all the kids in the neighborhood liked me, and I could dance, and so I would come with the latest.
You can dance.
I would
Get
come
out of
with
here.
the latest dance moves and the latest outfits and stuff. That was different because Chicago, of course, had a different style or whatever. So I became very popular. So
What
I
are some
liked-
of the dances that you did
Man,
back
I was
in the day?
certainly a break dancer. I was a popper for sure.
A break
Yeah,
dancer.
Yeah. Interestingly, Michael Jackson, that was something that I did as a kid. I used to put on Michael Jackson impersonations when I was in high school. That's actually how I got
Did you
paid.
do the moonwalk?
Yeah, I made money as a kid in high school doing Michael Jackson impersonations. That was my paper route in essence.
Wow, you
Yeah.
had like the glove and
The whole thing, the sequence glove, the socks,
Oh
the
my
jacket, all of
God,
it,
that's
yeah.
crazy. I gotta get you to do the moonwalk.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, did you make money?
I did. That was literally how I made money. I would go around and I would do Michael Jackson impersonation. I would do shows. And people would pay me to come
Wow.
out and do Thriller and do Beat It or whatever, like Billie Jean. That's exactly what I did.
So what was like your Michael Jackson move that you feel like you mastered?
Well, you know, it's crazy. It got to a point where I was watching Michael Jackson do the Motown 25 edition, and I'm looking at him going, that was whack. And I'm like, wait a minute, he's Michael Jackson. So I thought I got to a point where I was so
What?
good that I was even better than Michael. So I was bugging. I was bugging.
You're gonna do the moonwalk on this show. I'm getting him to do the moonwalk
no
on this
way,
show.
No way.
Why not? Come on, you got to do the moonwalk for us.
I will see. We'll see.
Okay. Oh my God, I was not expecting to hear that. Okay, so how do you think the music industry has changed?
Well, it's changed tremendously because we went from physical to digital to now streaming, and it's just a much different environment. You know, the average artist does not have the challenges, I would say, that maybe artists in the past had in terms of even getting a deal. You literally could go to sleep, wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, catch a vibe, go into your studio, create a song, and by 6 o'clock in the morning, press send and touch the whole world. So it's never been like that in history. So it's really a great time to be in music if you understand content and if you know how to leverage it. But it's just a different time.
So do you think that it's changed for the better or for the worse?
It just depends. It's funny. I had a client, and I used to say to her, "Your generation is ruining music," and she would say to me, "Well, your generation is writing the checks." So the question becomes, who's ruining music? So I think it depends on which lens you're looking at it from. So, but I think it's a great time to be in music. At no time in history could you do what you can do now in music. It's just a matter of understanding the value of content and leveraging it.
Do you think that less deals are being given at this point?
No, I think it's still at the
From-
same level. It's just maybe the types of deals are different. Obviously, we have the 360 model, which is much different than years past. So I think that's obviously different. But the deals are still as prevalent as they once were, I believe.
Okay. So what would be your advice to someone, to an artist, and what would be your advice to a music executive?
I think for artists, I would just say stay humble, stay consistent. I believe those are the keys to success. it's gonna happen eventually. It's rate multiplied by time equals distance. The rate at which